When are we, as a nation, Australians, going to have a proper conversation about how big we want our population to be? And I'm talking about a proper conversation outside of an election campaign, mid-term, of any colour government, I don't care, including state premiers. They need to be involved. A conversation we should be having right now with a level of urgency, perhaps even tied to the national debate about energy and energy sources, like nuclear and gas and coal and wind and solar. Because sure as hell, we see one side of politics, Labor, Greens and big business, pushing for a bigger Australia. For them, it makes sense, more people to tax, more people buying stuff. The age-old argument, a bigger Australia will be a better Australia. The only problem with that argument is that an increasing number of us, me included, don't buy that argument anymore. Now, I'm lucky. I own a house. I've been in constant employment for 52 years. Both my children have great jobs. I was going to say lucky, but I'm, after a lot of hard work, in a good place. I'm not struggling like millions of Australians to find a place to rent, or one of those younger Australians looking at house prices and admitting to myself, I'm never going to own my own house. Or, God forbid, one of those mortgage holders hit by 13 interest rate rises in a row, having to work 2 or 3 jobs to pay off my home loan. Now, I raise this today because of a piece in the News Limited papers, part written by our colleague here at Sky News, James Morrow. It points out something that cries out for strong debate. In January of this year, so a couple of months ago, our migration intake, so the people that settled here on a permanent or long-term visa, and those are Bureau of Stats numbers, they were the highest on record, the biggest intake ever. And remember, this is in the middle of a housing crisis and, importantly, a cost of living crisis. Now, tell me, does that make any sense to anybody? The actual number in the 4 weeks of January was 125,410 people. That's an MCG crowd plus another almost 25,000 people outside waiting to get in. What the hell are we doing? And remind me, did anyone from Labor federally, in the lead up to the last election, run around promising to have record immigration? If they did, I don't remember that policy. The number, as James pointed out, was 40% higher than the previous record set back in 2009. Dig a little deeper and you'll see New South Wales took the bulk of the long-term arrivals at 34,000 and Victoria 28,550. Those are full-timers. And as you can see, they all went to Sydney and Melbourne. Is there anyone watching us tonight that thinks this is sustainable? One economist quoted in this piece that on an annualised basis, that's like adding 1.5 Canberras to our country every year. He pointed out that Australia only added 166,000 new dwellings in 2023 with a population increase of more than 600,000. Where are those people going to live? How are our schools and our hospitals going to cope? What about the pressure on welfare systems, the roads, public transport, all of that? And we're not even having a discussion, not even having a proper national debate about this. The political leadership is non-existent. The current government wants to be seen to love everyone in the world, to be seen globally as friendly and kind by letting anyone who wants to come to Australia rock up and come here. Now, I went back to 2018 and a news poll published in The Australian back then that said Australians were, quote, fed up, their words, with a migration level of 190,000 a year. It's now over 600,000 a year. That same poll predicted that by 2046, Sydney will have 7.4 million people and Melbourne 7.3 million people. Australia's population, wait for it, will then be 36 million. 72% of people back then said, stop, we're getting too big. Governments did nothing and things only slowed because of COVID. Now, if Peter Dutton thinks nuclear energy is a winner in an election campaign, I suggest he starts drafting a population policy, and pretty fast.